Hey everyone, welcome to Strange Stories, where we explore near-death experiences and supernatural stories from people who've had a glimpse of the other side. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel. Without further ado, let's get to the story of the day. My near-death experience occurred during the Grand National Final Racing event in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm certain that the reason I experienced another crash in March 2010 was due to my failure to share this story with others. It happened to me as a wake-up call from God. Not only did I learn a lot, but I also experienced a significant shift in my attitude on life. On the track, I finished third in my region for the clubman class. I was on the front row of the motorbike race, getting ready to take off down a very steep downhill slope. Unbeknownst to me, a massive oil spill had occurred as a result of a rival racer blowing up his clutch at the entry to turn 3. On the second lap of the race, there were so many crashes that I feared the race would be called off, but it wasn't. Because of the delay, I had to accelerate to make up for lost time. I knew I had to pass this man totally before the oil flow started in turn 3 in order to reach the leading riders before the long straight. I didn't make it because my rear tire collided with the oil, causing me to fall and lose consciousness. When I came to, I was amid a cloud of red Georgia clay dust. My helmet's windshield had been ripped off the mounting points on the left side. My eyes were caked with dust. Something heavy was lying on me. I noticed my bike, and at the edge of the track, I noticed something blue laying on the ground that resembled my leg in the pants of my leathers. I felt something incredibly hot in my pelvic area and worried because I thought the object was my leg. I assumed the heated sensation was caused by blood loss as a result of the primary artery being severed. 2 corner workers rushed over to see whether I was okay. "No, I'm not okay," I exclaimed. I began to explain what I needed them to do. Then they both passed out. To calm myself down, I took a few deep breaths. I realized I had probably fractured my left forearm horribly. The other guy's bike was on top of me, which I saw. When I could see better and became more aware, I was relieved to see that the blue object lying on the track border was not my leg. I attempted to dismount the bike, but my leg became caught between the forks. The anguish caused me to pass out. I heard warnings blaring from the machines to which my body was hooked after going in and out of awareness for a bit. I had no pain at all. I was floating on my room ceiling, looking down on myself. Vicky entered the room, followed by 3 other nurses. "Julie, go fetch me the specialist on duty ASAP," Vicky said after taking one look at the monitors. One of the nurses dashed away. I looked behind me and up to see what appeared to be a freeway full with automobiles with their headlights on. As I came closer, I noticed human individuals with what appeared to be a light radiating from their navel area. The highway they were on led to what appeared to be a tremendously brilliant doorway. I felt compelled to join them, and I was there right away. We were communicating through telepathy. I'd ask a question in Afrikaans or English, and I'd get an answer in the language I asked the question in. At first, I didn't think much of it because most people understand some English, but what made me curious is that while chatting across languages, there's always some finger pointing, drawing, and arm swinging. But there was none of that here. My organization had a larger number of members. "What language do you hear?" I asked each of them. "My language," they all said. Then I switched to Afrikaans and asked the question again. They responded in Afrikaans this time. When I asked them what language they used when they responded, they all said, "My language." What amuses me is that I do not speak particularly high Afrikaans or good English. However, when I utilized both languages, their responses were on par with mine. "And you folks know where we're going?" I questioned next. They were all pointing to the glowing portal. "We're going to purgatory," muttered one of them. "What will we do when we get there?" I inquired. "This is where we analyze every decision we ever made while on Earth," someone stated. see how our decisions affected God's plans and how they influenced other people's decisions. That'll take years, I responded. Time only exists on Earth, was the response. We talked for a long time. I felt the need to pee. I felt compelled to take what appeared to be a rest area exit off a freeway. I was in a really dark location. I couldn't see my legs below the knees since it was so black. When I looked up, I noticed a large, fast-flowing, deep river. I spotted the most beautiful place across the river. It appeared to me to be a well-kept park. It was far more lovely than what I remembered seeing as a child in the Kruger National Park camping. I was astonished to meet my grandmother, who had died a year or two before my June 1983 arrival in the United States. I began to wade into the water in an attempt to find her. When the water level was halfway up my legs to my waist, I almost lost my balance and realized how strong the current was. That was the strength of the current. My grandmother noticed me, but merely indicated for me to leave with one arm waving. I noticed my father around the same time he noticed me. In December 1983, he was killed in an automobile accident. My father was preoccupied with my dog, Nikki, who had died in the late 1970s. He cupped both hands over his mouth and roared at me. "Sergeant Major, go back. We're not done with you yet." In English, "Go back. We're not ready for you yet." As I walked back out of the river, I turned around and began to cry. I couldn't get back on the highway in the same direction. The only path I could find led back down to Earth. The main difference between this route and the one I was on was that it was filled with many more little souls. I inquired as to why this was the case, and someone replied, "We're small because we have to be, because we're all going into babies' bodies. Some are smaller because they're in the testing phase, selecting which body, family, and culture they feel most comfortable entering and remaining in to finish the responsibilities they committed to complete with God and the Holy Spirit." I requested for them to explain how this worked to me. When an egg is fertilized in a woman's womb, it is assigned a soul. That soul can come and go as it pleases. It does so through the woman's breathing, which is the last admission that it makes into the body it selects. It enters the baby's body with the first few breaths it takes after birth, guided and assisted by God and the Holy Spirit. When that body dies, the soul departs with the final breath that the body exhales. I was suddenly back in my chamber, dangling from the ceiling. I was watching them work furiously on my body. I saw them numerous times as my body leapt from the shock of the paddles and they tried to restart my heart. I'm not sure how long I was gone. I opted to return to my body and the pain returned almost immediately. Vicky later came in with Julie and inquired how I was. She said she wanted to introduce me to my new night nurse. I replied that I was fine, but that I was in a lot of pain. "Do you want to introduce me to Julie?" I inquired. I believe both of their jaws struck the ground. Vicky said, "How do you know her name?" Julie responded, "I have no name tag, and I only saw you while you were flatlined." I informed them of what had occurred. Until my final mishap in 2010, I had only told a few individuals about my experience. After waking up from a 3-month coma, I felt compelled to relate my 1990 experience.